India is currently home to over 2 lakh startups and more than 120 unicorns. That sheer volume makes it the third largest startup ecosystem globally. But the geographic footprint of this growth defies traditional expectations. Rather than clustering solely in established tech hubs like Bengaluru or Mumbai, over 51% of these new companies are emerging from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities like Indore or Jaipur. This decentralized scaling is the direct result of a digital infrastructure stack built methodically since 2016. The first pillar is Aadhaar. Before this biometric identity system, user verification meant physical paperwork and long delays. Today, a founder can digitally onboard a user instantly. Then came the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. Startups no longer had to build complex payment gateways from scratch, and digital transactions became as commonplace as scanning a street vendor's QR code. Finally, the telecom operator Jio entered the market, driving the price of mobile data down by 90% and bringing millions of Indians online virtually overnight. Together, these three pillars removed the traditional friction of doing business. They created the perfect conditions for a hyper-scaling boom, allowing young founders across the country to seamlessly plug their ideas into a domestic consumer base of over 500 million people. By 2021, this infrastructure-driven boom reached a fever pitch. Investors poured $38 billion into the ecosystem, minting 45 new unicorns. 2 years later, the environment reversed. Total funding crashed to a 6-year low, and the media labeled the fallout a funding winter. Framing this period as an ecosystem collapse misreads the data. The pullback was a severe, healthy market correction. While 9-figure mega rounds from massive startups vanished, the appetite for new ideas remained intact. In fact, early-stage seed funding actually increased by 7% during this exact same period. Venture capitalists had not run out of money, they simply changed their criteria. As global interest rates rose, the focus shifted away from subsidizing massive user acquisition and toward capital efficiency and clear paths to profitability. The cash contraction acted as a strict filter. It forced the entire ecosystem to pivot from rapidly scaling consumer delivery apps toward engineering sustainable, revenue-generating businesses. As capital discipline returns, a more critical question is being asked of Indian founders. Are they content competing over a shared pool of gig labor for rapid delivery apps, while global competitors lock down artificial intelligence and advanced hardware? This chart highlights a glaring structural deficit. India currently allocates roughly 0.65% of its GDP to research and development. Compare that to South Korea at 5%, or China at an estimated 2.68%. China holds a 31-year head start on state-led venture capital, backing over 1,800 government funds to dominate high-tech sectors like robotics and semiconductor manufacturing. South Korea accelerates its innovation through the TIPS program. By layering government R&D grants over private investment, they effectively remove the catastrophic financial downside for founders taking massive technological risks. India cannot easily replicate these heavy tech successes because of a massive physical bottleneck, a severely lagging domestic manufacturing sector. Because manufacturing has hovered stubbornly around 12 to 13% of India's GDP, founders attempting to build hardware face incredibly slow iteration cycles and steep import costs for basic components. Software can scale limitlessly on cloud servers, but advanced hardware requires a localized supply chain. Until that physical network matures, India's ambitions in heavy deep tech will consistently hit a structural wall. Despite these physical constraints, a new wave of founders is actively building indigenous solutions to bypass these exact R&D bottlenecks. In agritech, a company called Eki Foods has developed climate-controlled growing chambers that use 80% less water than traditional farming, a critical innovation for a country rapidly depleting its groundwater. In aerospace, a startup named Digantara, founded by a computer science undergrad, is actively tracking orbital movements to map the exact blind spots of foreign spy satellites for national defense. The government has recognized this shift, officially launching a direct policy response, a 10,000 crore fund of funds explicitly ring-fenced to back deep tech innovation. Top-tier global accelerators like Y Combinator, which largely observed India from a distance for years, are now establishing a permanent presence. The digital infrastructure is fully operational, and the capital environment is finally disciplined enough to attract the most selective investors. The next chapter of India's economy will not rely on cheap labor arbitrage or basic consumer aggregators. It will be driven by globally competitive, highly technical businesses built by founders succeeding on pure merit, regardless of what city they start in.